Democrats burst out laughing in a congressional hearing today, and when you hear what triggered it you will completely understand why.
Release all of those documents. He is the most transparent president in the nation's history. And none of them ask Merrick Garland over the last 4 years one word about Jeffrey Epstein. How ironic is that? You know why? Because Donald Trump, the Dow right now is over, the Dow is over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing. You're a great stock trader, as I hear, Raskin. The Dow is over 50,000 right now. The S&P at almost 7,000. And the NASDAQ smashing records. Americans' 401ks and retirement savings are booming. That's what we should be talking about.
Bondi, you go right ahead. I'm over here. The time is yours.
Thank you. First, he brought up the president saying they indicted me twice. They sure did. They tried to impeach him twice, and you, Mr. Nadler, were one of the leads on the impeachment. I was on the other side. I lived that with you. During impeachment, you said the president conspired, sought foreign interference in the 2016 election. Robert Mueller found no evidence, none, of foreign interference in 2016. Have you apologized to President Trump? Have you apologized to President Trump, all of you who participated in those impeachment hearings against Donald Trump? You all should be apologizing. You sit here and you attack the president, and I am not going to have it. I'm not going to put up with it. You know, all they want to do, the American people need to know this. They are talking about Epstein today. This has been around since the Obama administration. This administration released over 3 million pages of documents, over 3 million, and Donald Trump signed that law to release all of those documents. He is the most transparent president in the nation's history. And none of them ask Merrick Garland over the last 4 years one word about Jeffrey Epstein. How ironic is that? You know why? Because Donald Trump, the Dow right now is over, the Dow is over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing. You're a great stock trader, as I hear, Raskin. The Dow is over 50,000 right now. The S&P at almost 7,000. And the NASDAQ smashing records. Americans' 401ks and retirement savings are booming. That's what we should be talking about. We should be talking about making Americans safe. We should be talking about, what does a Dow have to do with anything? That's what they just asked. Are you kidding?
Mr. Jordan, Mr. Jordan.
Committee will be in order.
Mr. Jordan, am I going to get an extra 45 seconds added to my time?
The committee will be in order. The time belongs to the gentleman from Texas. Ms. Bondi, the Attorney General can respond.
Thank you. The Dow has shattered 50,000 for the first time. This is crazy. They said it couldn't be done in 4 years, yet President Trump has done it in 1 year. National median rents have fallen to a 4-year low, thanks to Donald Trump. That's why they want to focus on Epstein and our most transparent president in the nation's history. The murder rate, as I said, has plummeted to a 125-year low, thanks to Donald Trump. For an unprecedented 9 straight months, there were 0 illegal border crossings at the southern border. That's what we should be focused on. All the great work that this president has done and will continue to do to keep America safe and to make Americans safe.
Thank you, Attorney General Bondi. I agree with you totally. I think you've done a fine job. I think that Democrats, in fact, should be apologizing to the Epstein victims for doing nothing during the 4 years that they were running the government. We did not hear about this, and it took you and President Trump to finally provide transparency and give answers to the American people, and I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you also for standing up for truth today and for fighting back against the theatrics and the time waste that you will endure over the next hour or two. I want to apologize on behalf of my colleagues on the left. They're not all that bad, but they've got to put on a show. And I'm sorry that you have to go through that. And I would like to yield the last, I'd say 40, but 40 is 80 seconds. The clock says 40, but I've got 80 seconds since I was so rudely interrupted, and I'll give all 80 seconds to Chairman Jordan.
And I would just yield to the Attorney General if she has anything to add.
I'm fine to continue. Thank you, Chairman.
All right, the chair now recognizes, the gentleman yields back. The chair recognizes the gentlelady from California.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would note that Mr. Nadler's question has not yet been answered, but I want to start by asking that out of respect for the American public.
Welcome back to Floor Report. Today we are breaking down Senator Tammy Duckworth's exchange with Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and this one is about money, priorities, and what America's choices abroad are costing ordinary people at home. Now before we get into the clips, let me tell you something about Tammy Duckworth that matters here. She is a retired Army lieutenant colonel who lost both legs flying a combat mission in Iraq in 2004. When she talks about the cost of war, she is not speaking theoretically. She has paid that cost personally. So when she stands up and questions whether this administration is using military force responsibly, that carries a different weight than most politicians in that room. Her argument opens with a quote from General Jim Mattis, the former CENTCOM commander who later became Trump's own Secretary of Defense in his first term. In 2013, Mattis warned Congress that if you do not fully fund the State Department, then the military will need more ammunition. His point was simple and important. Diplomacy is cheaper than war. Every dollar you invest in preventing a conflict saves you $10 in fighting one. Duckworth uses that quote deliberately because it came from a decorated general that even Republicans respect, and she argues that instead of heeding that warning, this administration used it as a blueprint. Then she drops the number that should stop everyone in their tracks. In just 14 weeks, the cost of the Iran war has ballooned past $35 billion. The entire State Department budget request for the next fiscal year is $35.1 billion. Read that again. 14 weeks of military action in Iran cost as much as an entire year of American diplomacy worldwide. That is not a political opinion. Those numbers come from the Department of Defense's own calculations. Duckworth is not exaggerating. She is reading the government's own math back to Rubio in his own hearing. When she asks Rubio directly whether the Iran war has cost more than his entire State Department budget request, his answer is striking. He says he cannot speak to those numbers because that is not something he looks at. The National Security Advisor of the United States, a man who sits in the room where these decisions are made, says he does not look at what the war costs. That gap between military spending and diplomatic investment is exactly what Duckworth came to expose. Then she raises something that got very little media attention. Saudi Arabia, one of America's closest allies in the Middle East, denied the United States basing rights and overflight access related to Trump's plan to escort ships through the Strait of Hormuz. Think about what that means. A country that has relied on American military protection for decades said no to a direct American request during an active military operation. That does not happen unless an ally has serious concerns about what America is doing and why. Rubio's response is that allies have been cooperative and supportive. But Duckworth has the public reporting to show otherwise. Here is the bigger picture. Duckworth's core argument is this: when a country consistently reaches for military force before exhausting diplomatic options, it sends a message to the entire world. Allies learn they cannot rely on American judgment. Adversaries learn that America skips negotiation and goes straight to confrontation. And that environment, where everyone assumes force comes first, makes the world more dangerous for everyone, including Americans. Rubio pushes back at the end listing diplomatic wins, the India-Pakistan ceasefire, the Azerbaijan-Armenia peace deal, ongoing Lebanon and Israel talks. Those are real. But Duckworth's point was never that diplomacy has stopped entirely. Her point is about proportion and priority. When you cut the diplomatic budget by 13% while spending $35 billion on a single military operation in 14 weeks, your priorities are visible regardless of what you say about them. This is Floor Report. Subscribe for weekly hearing breakdowns. Follow us at Floor Report US on all platforms. See you in the next one.